o'clock, so did you wait? The Clewiston City Commission meeting is now called to order. The City of Clewiston City Commission meeting will be live on the city's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/City of Clewiston and the city's website at clewiston-fl.gov/meetings. Public comments may have been submitted via email to the city clerk. We have not received any as of this afternoon at 5 o'clock. Public comments will also be allowed via telephone, 863-254-4038, conference ID number 994729. That's 863-254-4038, conference ID number 994729, at the time the agenda item is being considered. Members of the public, when addressing the commission via email or telephone, must state their name, address, contact information, and agenda item they wish to speak about. Be advised that the commission may take action on items not listed on the agenda. If this occurs, public comments will be received at the time the item is considered, provided you speak up indicating your desire. Statement of the mayor regarding virtual public city commission meetings pursuant to Executive Order number 2069, 2112, 2123, 2139, 2150, 2179, 2193, 2246. Municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 5B2 of the Florida statutes. We do have a quorum present, and I believe that the Vice Mayor will be calling in. At this time, we're happy to have Pastor Landy Posada from Iglesia Vida Nueva, who's going to lead us in prayer, and then we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Thank you, Pastor.
Antes que nada,
Before anything,
quiero expresar mi agradecimiento a la ciudad,
I want to thank the city,
gracias al señor Randy Martin y por supuesto a la Mayor Molly.
thank you Randy, thank you Molly.
Por los últimos 7 meses hemos podido usar las instalaciones del John Boy Auditorium
For the last 7 months, we've been able to use the John Boy Auditorium,
y hemos podido distribuir más de 10,000 cajas de alimentos para la ciudad.
and we've been able to distribute over 10,000 boxes of food for the city.
Eso significa más de 400,000 libras de comida a través de nuestra iglesia y de nuestro partner Harry Chapin.
That means over 400,000 pounds of food through our church and with our partner Harry Chapin.
Y mientras persista la emergencia, vamos a continuar distribuyendo 1,200 cajas de comida cada mes.
And we will be continuing this distribution as long as we have emergency, which means giving out over 1,200 boxes each month.
La utilización de la facilidad de John Boy ha sido muy importante para nosotros y poder bendecir a cientos de vehículos que hacen línea por más de 2 millas.
Just the usage of the facilities has helped us a lot, and to be able to distribute the way we do, because over, like, the families do about 2 miles worth of a line.
Muchísimas gracias a todos los comisionados. Gracias, señor Martin. Gracias, Mayor.
Thank you. I thank all of you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Molly.
Gracias por el honor de permitirme orar y poner en manos del Señor esta reunión de trabajo.
And thank you for allowing me to pray and put in God's hands this meeting.
Quiero comenzar la oración leyendo la Biblia, por supuesto.
And I want to start this prayer reading the Bible, of course.
Dice en el libro de Santiago, capítulo 1, verso 5, si alguno de ustedes tiene falta de sabiduría, pídala a Dios, el cual da a todos abundantemente y sin reproche, y le será dado.
But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him.
Esta tarde vamos a pedirle a nuestro Dios. Padre que estás en los cielos,
Father that you're in heaven,
te damos gracias por permitirnos estar vivos en este día.
we thank you because you allow us to be alive today.
Solo el hecho de estar vivos debe ser suficiente para darte gracias.
Just the fact that we're alive should be enough to thank you.
Gracias por esta reunión de trabajo.
We thank you for this work meeting.
Quiero pedirte, Señor, que pongas sabiduría,
I want to ask you that you put wisdom,
prudencia
prudence,
a cada uno de los que están en este lugar.
to each and every single person that's in this place.
Que cada uno pueda reconocer
That each person can recognize
su necesidad de Dios
their need of God.
en cada decisión que tomen.
That in every decision that they take,
Busquen la voluntad de Dios.
they seek God's will.
Que tu palabra sea su guía.
That your word will be their guide.
Que sean consejeros sabios.
That there are wise men,
Que sean personas honestas y morales.
honest people,
Personas de integridad.
people with integrity.
Que se respeten unos a otros.
That they respect each other.
Te pido, Dios,
I ask you
que los libres del mal,
that you free them from evil,
a cada uno de ellos y a sus familias,
each and every one of them and their families,
que sus corazones
that their hearts
tengan oídos para oír y obedecer
have ears to hear and obey
el consejo de Dios.
the counsel of God.
Que hagan lo correcto delante del Creador.
That they do what's right before the Creator.
Que nos gobiernen con justicia.
That they govern with justice.
Que la alcaldesa y cada uno de los comisionados,
That the mayor and everyone that's here,
que cada uno de los oficiales
that each official
protejan la familia
protect the family
con sabiduría,
with wisdom,
con justicia,
with justice,
con un corazón bondadoso
with a giving heart,
y que sean prosperados.
and that they're prosperous.
Que dispongan su corazón y su alma
That they put their heart and their soul,
y busquen al Señor.
and they seek God.
Dios, te pido que les otorgues
God, I ask you to give them
un espíritu de mansedumbre y humildad,
a spirit of humility,
que tengan que tomar decisiones importantes
that they have to take important decisions,
sabiendo que dependen de ti.
knowing that they depend from you.
Que esta ciudad
That this city
y cada ciudadano
and each citizen
pueda sentir el respaldo de los que lo gobiernan.
can feel like they're backed up by this council.
Te lo pido en el nombre de Jesús.
I ask you in the name of Jesus.
Amén.
Amen.
Y amén.
Gracias, Pastor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Martin, are there any additions? Any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, after consultation with the City Attorney, it's our recommendation that items F and G under the consent agenda regarding the service agreement with the Chamber and with the museum, these items were funded in the budget, so it does not impact the funding, but the City Attorney would like additional time to work on the form of the agreement to make it more appropriate and to update the agreement.
Okay.
Before you take action. So as our recommendation, you pull those and we'll put them back on another agenda for action.
Okay, is that it? Is there anything else?
No, ma'am.
And no additions? Okay, so at this time it's public comments. Anybody can come forward and make any public comments. If they'll state their name for the record.
Evening, Commissioners. Laura Smith, 206 Ridgewood Avenue. We're back to the puppies again. Not spaying neuter, let's keep going. We've had a very good Samaritan out of the Justin Bartlett Animal Rescue in West Palm Beach. Has responded for a free vaccine clinic for dogs and cats. It'll be this Saturday at the John Boy Auditorium. It's starting at 9 o'clock until all the vaccines are gone. So there are going to be some other vaccines besides the rabies, but rabies is our main target. They have budgeted for 200 animals, so please, if you see anybody, know of anybody, please share the information as much as you possibly can. And so that's going to be for pretty much anyone that can hear my voice right now. So if you're in Montura and miss someone in Montura, over in Glades County, and need your dog vaccinated, please bring them over because it is a huge problem. The dog gets out and bites somebody or bites somebody else's dog. There are financial implications and some quarantine costs for the dog to go back home. So that's this Saturday, John Boy, starting at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so it's this Saturday, October the 24th,
Saturday 24th.
at 9 o'clock in the morning at the John Boy Auditorium. Okay,
And please make sure that the dogs are on leashes. We do not want a free-for-all. And the cats that are coming in, they are in crates or boxes, contained some way or another. We don't want a free-for-all out there.
no, cats and dogs.
We're hoping that this is going to be something that if this goes well, they'll do it again for us another 6 months' time and get us caught up.
That's great. Thank you so much for coordinating. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other public comments at this time? We'll go ahead and unmute the lines and hit *1 to speak and state your name for the record, please. If anyone wishes to make a public comment at this time, just hit *1 to speak. All right, we'll go ahead and mute the lines. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item F and item G?
Can I ask a question first?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
With regard to item H, which is the lease with Hope Hospice, I couldn't find 1200 South WPO Avenue, which I think this is the senior citizens.
Correct. It is.
So I think that address is just wrong.
We'll check it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, with regards to Little Disciples Learning Center, do they use that building year round?
The owner's here, and I believe that they do.
You can come up if you want. Or it is a year round. It's not just for this full year.
Okay, so it is for year-round, Catrice.
Yes, this year.
Okay.
Okay. So, this is the property that's across from the middle school, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I don't have any other questions for you, but I would like the commission to consider that building is an older building, and I think it really more like a park. I mean, it's got that building there that we all went to when we were little kids, so it's 100 years old, but I think that I would like to entertain the sale of that property for possible teacher housing. So I know in November, we're going to look at other parks and in particular the police station over here. If the commission is agreeable, I'd like to get an appraisal on that property and also another property that is on Central that the city owns that has a building on it that I don't think we use it, which I also think would be good for apartments, which the city is in need of. Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, I know that,
You know which property I'm talking about?
right, but I mean,
Right behind, the Aztec apartment. And do we use that building for anything?
well, it's the CPAC building, so it uses for ballet and things like that, but, and we don't own that whole, all the way from one road to the other.
Right, U.S. Sugar
Owns half of it, correct?
half of it, but they.
Almost half of
Couple
it, yeah.
lots.
So can we get an appraisal on that as well?
Sure, I've started looking for an appraiser on the other one, so I can throw those in the mix.
Okay, I know this is on the consent agenda, we're discussing, and I know that to do anything on these properties, I don't know how quickly anything can be built. I know it's a discussion in November that we're having, and these leases are for a year, if I'm not mistaken, because every year they're on our agenda. And I think that we can give notice in so many days under these approvals. So, approving the leases at this time, I think we should.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to approving.
Okay,
I just
all right.
wanted to bring it up for discussion.
I recommend we go ahead and approve it.
Okay.
They're expiring, and then we can
Look at all those. Okay. All right. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item F and G? I have a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh, gotta speak louder. Okay. All right, public hearing. This is on ordinance number 2020-03. The public hearing is now open. It's an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, allowing the reconstruction of single-family homes on 50-foot wide lots in the R2 and R3 zoning districts as long as an occupied single-family home existed on the same lot within the last 7 years, amending section 110-287 lot and building requirements, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, conflict severability, and effective date. Mr. Martin?
This was approved on first reading at your September meeting and is now before you for action, final action. I have no further comments unless someone has questions.
Mr. Attorney, do you have any comments on this? Okay. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this? Are there any members of the public on the phone that wish to speak on this? If so, please hit *1. Okay, *1 if you would like to make a public comment during the public hearing for ordinance number 2020-03. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment on the phone. Are there any questions or comments by the commission? If not, we'll go ahead and declare the public hearing closed. And again, the recommended motion is to approve ordinance number 2020-03 on final reading. Is there a motion? A motion, is there a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have another public hearing. Ordinance number 2020-04, reading it by title, an ordinance of the City of Clewiston, Florida, Code of Ordinances, modifying section 98-189, monitoring of discharges. B, access to facilities in section 98-190, requirements to prevent, control, and reduce stormwater pollutants by the use of best management practices, providing for incorporation into the code, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. The public hearing is open. Mr. Martin?
This is another item you've discussed previously and was approved for first reading on the September meeting. We have the engineer here tonight to answer any questions. The attorney has drafted, and as I noted in the agenda cover sheet, there was some minor revisions, just formatting revisions, I'll refer to them, for clarity to section 2, and I'll refer to the attorney if he has any comments on that. We try to clear up potential ambiguities and things of that nature. Glad to answer any other questions, but I'll refer to him.
Okay. Are there any questions of the attorney in regards to the format changes? Any other additional comments you wish to make on that?
No, there are none. We changed that because the paragraph was confusing when it was all put together like it was. We were working with language that was already in the code, and then FDOT added additional language. Originally, we just tacked it on that section, and it really needed to be reformatted as was pointed out to us.
Okay. All right. And are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I have a question, a follow-up question from last meeting for Andy.
Andy, if you'll come forward.
So at the last meeting, we talked about whether or not that language, there was any wiggle room with regard to more than 3 living units. Were you able to confirm that with DEP?
DEP did not respond directly to that, but it is in all of the rest of the ordinances that I've looked at in other communities.
I didn't see it in any others other than Highlands County. What other ones did you look at?
Lee County and some of Collier County.
I thought I looked at Collier County, I didn't see it, but maybe I missed it. Okay, if they didn't respond, there's nothing we can do. Gary, with regard to the may and the shall, you're comfortable with that? So where it says, further, any person responsible for a property or premise which may be the source of an illegal discharge shall be required to implement.
Where exactly are you at on that one?
That was a specific request of the DEP to change it from may to shall. That was one of their major items that they wanted to see the city implement. So, whether I'm comfortable with it or not,
It just doesn't seem, may, if someone may be guilty of an illegal discharge and yet shall be, required to implement at that person's expense, those two words don't seem to go together. If someone is guilty, I can understand shall, but if they may have caused an illegal discharge, seems like that's a harsh hand on the other side. I've asked about it. I'm not comfortable with either of those provisions, that provision or with the other, because I think under where it starts with development or redevelopment of its site, industrial, commercial, and residential use of more than 3 living units, where it starts there.
Right. Commissioner McGahey, let me just clarify just for the public. This is what she is referring to is section 2 on page 3, item number 2, where the change states any person responsible for a property or premise which is or may be the source of an illegal discharge shall be required to implement at said person's expense additional, and then it goes on to the same wording as before.
So I've raised my concerns with regard to that. I've also raised my concerns with regard to the paragraphs that are getting added, 3, 4, and 5, which is the city's position that DEP has a strong hand. There's not anything we can do. I think that those things pose additional costs and expenses to projects that we as a commission don't have a good handle on. And when we're trying to encourage development, this to me discourages development, and for that reason I'm going to vote against it.
My understanding from the last meeting is that these 3, 4, and 5 are requirements by DEP.
They are additions that they said that were needed in the ordinance to meet the requirements. And this requirement for this ordinance started with the NPDES, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Permit that was issued to the city back in 2009, and was supposed to have been part of the first 5 years of permit. So DEP expected that the city would have this in place by 14.
Well, I think that to be fair, they proposed a model ordinance, which is not necessarily the law. They proposed something. They asked us to adopt it. So I don't think that we've really asked them or gotten an answer from them as to whether or not we don't include paragraphs 3, 4, and 5. Are we still in compliance or not in compliance? Have we asked them that?
I haven't asked them in that framework, in that specific way, Commissioner. I just know that when they looked at what was on the book, that they said these are things that need to be added.
Well, I think that what they did is sent Highlands County ordinance to us. That's what I saw from the email exchanges. And that's what City Manager Randy also understood, is that's how we came to have this language, is because it's in Highlands County ordinance.
It's not just Highlands County. That was one they happened to send in that batch of emails. Yes, that was one of the more recent ones.
But it's not in Belglades, it's not in Pahokee, it's not in Okeechobee, it's not in any of the cities around the lake, which is, we're having to do this because we're sitting on an impaired body of water. And so, which it may be that it's coming down the pipe, and Manager Martin explained that to me, so I'm happy to have that explanation, if that's what the position is. I just think that we should ask and be clear before we go.
So, Gary, let me ask you a question. Highlands County adopted this ordinance or similar ordinances. What about other municipalities? Do we know if the municipalities' ordinances are different than what the counties are adopting? Is there any wording that would change from municipality versus a county?
If I can interject, one thing that I shared with Commissioner McGahee is these permits roll around every 5 years. Now, obviously, not to be critical of predecessors, but the city did not get it adopted by the time the revision or update from 09 to date. So we're a number of years out of compliance in that regard. The bar has changed during that time period, and the state has elevated many of their requirements under orders of the current governor's administration. I think most people are aware of that. But individual communities do not have to update their plan until theirs comes up for renewal. I presume that Highlands County had to renew theirs in 19, and that's why they're the most recent one that was sent to us. I don't know, but I assume that these other communities in this region and across the state that are on impaired waterways in particular will have to address their plans and update them once their renewal period comes up. Would you agree with that, Mr. Attorney and Engineer? That's as I understand it. It's like a wastewater treatment plant. All of those on usually 5-year cycles, and you have to start ahead of time and you try to meet it as closely as you can. And even with our best effort here, we're going to take us 4 more years after this year to fully comply with the mapping requirements and other things that we should have had in place some time ago, several years ago.
The concern is that if you ask FDP to step forward and critique this exact language, you're likely to get something back that is more restrictive than what's being proposed here. That's the issue, is what can we do as a community for the city of Clewiston that will meet the requirements of FDP without imposing, as the commissioner said, even more additional burdens on the city.
Gary, I know Commissioner McGahee mentioned Bellway, Pahokee, and South Bay, Okeechobee. Well, the Tri-Cities I'm thinking is because they're covered under Palm Beach County. Would a Palm Beach County ordinance cover them, or do they have to adopt one themselves?
Okay.
Do you know that?
Different counties are doing things a little differently.
Okay.
And it depends on if they're a phase 1 or a phase 2 community. The city here is a phase 2 community, and generally the phase 2 communities do theirs individually.
Okay.
In Lee County, for instance, most of the original permittees are phase 1, but Village of Estero is now a phase 2 permittee, and so they do their reporting separately, whereas all the phase 1s put their permit reports annually together, and they have more similarities between them.
Okay. And has Hendry County adopted? Do we know if Hendry County's adopted an ordinance?
I do not know.
Okay.
Unless were designated as an MPDS required permittee, and that would depend on what they manage in terms of stormwater management facilities. It was a federal designation that came out in the 2008-9 time frame that I dealt with previously coming here. And that's when Clewiston was designated initially. This doesn't go beyond that. It started in the late 2000s, before 2010. And that was when the first permit was issued, about 2009, I believe.
Yes, Henry County is a permittee.
They are. I
don't know what their stormwater ordinance says, but they definitely are.
But regardless, because we're phase 2, we still have to come up with our own ordinance, is what you're saying. Okay.
And if the county, I don't know their cycle too, they may not be in they may cycle to update theirs. And I dare say when they do have to update it, they will have to meet it the same because they're also in the BMAPS area and other new requirements that are applicable to us and the county and many of the areas around the lake. That impacts as well on your designation and the impairment of the water body, the designation.
And the cycle that they're on and when they have to adopt the new one, okay?
We
Is
can
there a
check.
time frame of why, I mean, I know we're already behind, according to what's been said.
5 years.
Would 1 month, one more month make a difference? No?
I'm
So
sure.
that we can look at this a little bit more and see?
Because they've been asking us sometimes weekly when it's gonna be, and so we told them in September that it would be first reading, and then October would be the decision.
Mhm.
Now, if the decision of the commission is you're gonna put it off for another month, we'll tell them that.
Okay.
It's not the decision of the commission, it's that they've been asked the question and
They haven't responded. Because you've asked a question and they haven't responded.
I have not got a response.
Okay, all right.
That is certainly.
Okay. Well, and I'd like to know about Hendry County and where we're at, and even of the other cities around the lake. I know it's a 5-year process and their window's different than ours, but I would like to get a little bit more information. I think Commissioner McGahey brings up some good points. I know that we don't have a choice. I think we're going to have to do this, but I'm willing to continue. I don't know how we can do this, to continue the public hearing or reset the public hearing for the next meeting.
Continue it, that way we
Okay.
don't have to go back through all the formal stuff.
Right. Gary, what would be the best legally for us to do?
I think you have legitimate questions regarding the wording of that paragraph, the maybe language, as well as what other cities have done, and the county. And I think we need to get answers to those. You deserve them. And so I would recommend that you put it off and postpone the public hearing on this until your next meeting.
Okay.
One comment I would like for the record and for those audience members that are listening, the city is not doing nothing. We have done some things. We have produced a publication that was one of the requirements for distribution to the community and anyone on water quality related, stormwater related stuff. Then the second thing, we're already engaged with the engineer and working towards the mapping, the first year requirement for those maps, and then the other subsequent would be broken over 4 more years to complete our mapping of the city's jurisdiction. So it's not like we're not doing anything. The ordinance is just one of the requirements. We've done a number of them.
Correct. Okay, I'm not going to take any additional public comments at this time, since the recommendation from the attorney is to continue or postpone this public hearing of ordinance number 2020-04 until we have answers to some of the questions for the final hearing to be set for the next meeting in November. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing that we started. And is there a motion to continue till the next meeting in November?
Motion to table the item time certain November meeting.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? All in favor? Any further discussion? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next item, Mayor, is another item of that list that we do have, draft ordinance, another item that came out of the review of our current situation, recommended for consideration regarding fertilizer application limitations, particularly on commercial entities, that unless you have questions on, I would recommend you go ahead and consider this one and proceed with public hearing.
Okay.
Deciding which is status of what you want to do here.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. This is on ordinance number 2020-05, an ordinance of the city of Clewiston of Hendry County, Florida, focusing on excessive nutrient levels in the city of Clewiston water bodies, providing for title, providing for definitions, providing for findings, providing for purpose and intent, providing for applicability, providing for timing of fertilizer applications, providing for fertilizer-free zones, providing for fertilizer content and application rates, providing for fertilizer application practices, providing for management of grass clippings and vegetative matter, providing for exemptions, providing for training, providing for licensing of commercial applicators, providing for enforcement, providing for penalties, providing for appeal, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code of laws and ordinances, providing for captions, and providing for an effective date. Andy, since you're standing there, I'll go ahead and let you just bring us up to date on this. I know that we had the ordinance that we read at the first reading on September 21st, Randy. Are any questions of Andy since he's standing here, if there's any other comments you wish to make on this?
I just wanted to comment that it's a little different than the others. This is not a requirement under your NPDES permit, but it will give the city some credit towards what the city will have to do to meet the Basin Management Action Plan under the TMDL program. So, by having this ordinance and a couple of others, the city will actually get credit against, it's considered an educational credit. And they, basically, DEP provides a credit up to, I think, 6% of whatever your amount of removal is for a whole series of things, and this is one of them. So there probably will most likely be some additional items coming to the commission as time goes on to fill that out. But you don't have to have all of the items in place to get a partial credit, if you will. So this will give a partial credit towards that.
Okay, are there any questions of the commission? This is a public hearing, so are there any comments from the public? If you'll go ahead and unmute the lines, if there's... Is there any public comments in regards to ordinance number 2020-05? Please hit *1 and state your name for the record. Okay, not hearing any public comments, we'll go ahead and mute the line. The recommended motion is to approve ordinance number 2020-05. Everything's been publicly noticed, and this is the final reading of ordinance number 2020-05. If no further comments or questions from the commission, we'll go ahead and declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 2020-05?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, if there's not a second, the motion fails. Okay, I do not hear a second, so the motion's failed. Yeah, sure.
I didn't understand that acronym that you used, Andy, where we're gonna get credit for. Can you explain that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry that I didn't provide it in my original explanation. Under the
Some TMDL.
TMDL, which is the total maximum daily load for nitrogen and phosphorus to both the lake and the river, Clewiston River, that is. There is now a Basin Management Action Plan, BMAP, some people call it a BMAP, that has the amount of reduction that each of the governmental entities that have discharges to those water bodies are required to do over the next 15 years.
And where would we be getting credit? Is that some application that we're gonna score points on to better us in some way?
The general way that the DEP does it is they keep a ledger with projects that clean the water up, or in this case, it's an educational credit. As the city shows them that they have these educational items in place, they'll note that and they'll show that in the ledger of the credit.
So do you have some concerns?
I would like to know what the other components are with that and cadence to be met. The other items you said that are going to be coming along the line.
I don't remember all of them. Commissioner, there's, but besides fertilizer ordinance, there's also usually a pet waste ordinance. and 3 ordinances. I'm trying to remember what the third one is. And then, certain types of educational programs in the form of things on the website, flyers, going out and speaking at meetings, having educational things on the agenda of the commission meeting could be one of them. They give a wide range of things that could be done, and then the city gets to choose, at some level, they get to choose how many of those they really want to do.
So, Randy, in your opinion, I'm not a fan of putting ordinances on the book just to put them. One, I think we have a problem enforcing the ordinances that we have. So when I read this, where it says no grass clippings can be blown into the road, you know, we got a lot of education that we need to be doing in regard to that, because not only do all the private vendors blow into the road, a whole bunch of other ones do as well. So it's just, you know, with regard to the golf course, going to put additional burden on them to comply with the golf course maintenance. And I don't see how we are ever going to enforce this, because we don't really have the ability to enforce the ones that we have. This is an additional load. Now, if there was some trade-off for me that says, find a way to enforce it, okay, because we're going to get a benefit over here.
Well, we are. I mean, if you don't do and earn these credits, you will be required to do more stringent things, such as doing capital outlay structures to contain and improve water quality. They're going to, if you fail to do these litany of things that you can do to public educate, your point's well taken. Anytime there's enforcement involved, it requires, we currently have, Public Works has certification to enforce, and we do regularly catch people that are putting stuff in the drains and letting it go in, and we require them to blow it back in the yards or do something with it or dispose of it properly through the containers. And we've gotten our code officer certified to watch for those kind of things. And this is mostly commercial folks on the mowing things, but it's also to educate the public to use proper fertilizer so that they're not contributing to the nitrogen and phosphorus problem. And that's why you get into the public education activities, brochures, websites, things like that, to educate your people. But because as you note in there, the residential aren't susceptible to it. It's the commercial primarily that we go after. Whereas individual homeowners, we're not going to be enforcing it upon directly. At least that would be the primary thing. At some point you may get to that. But it's similar to our other solid waste regulatory thing, trying to minimize the negative impacts of it getting into the stormwater, then it goes into the canals, then it goes into the waterways, and then you have more of the vegetation growing in our canals and creating problems in water quality. So you'll either comply through, at some point with the BMAP program, and Danny, that Andy explained, you're going to have to show progress. And it will add, going back to the concerns with the other ordinance, it will add cost to projects at some point if you're not meeting those requirements. So anything we can voluntarily do through public education to get ahead of that and minimize and make sure that we're making significant enough progress in the state's eyes towards making an effort. Because if you do nothing, then you're probably going to get more stringent enforcement from the state. And now, going back to it, it's just an item added to our list that will have to become a priority for us if we're going to truly try to improve water quality in the area. And a lot of it it even impacts people's purchases. They're trying to get people to purchase the right materials so that they're not using the wrong fertilizer.
Right, but not only that, the application, you know, the educational part is that you don't put fertilizer in rainy season. It's not necessary. You only put it in, you know, during the dry season, or, you know, you limit the number of applications. And and the education is clear about what you were saying about our storm drains. I mean, we do see where people place vegetation on the storm drains.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that the staff has gone by and asked them not to do that because it does impair it if that goes into the drain itself. So I know that it gives us credit because we're going to do more of an education. I know that our staff has to also have additional training and requirements.
And we've met those.
But I do know that the BMAPs has been placed on all of us, whether we want it or not. And so that's the state of Florida did that to us. And because of Lake Okeechobee and the Caloosahatchee River. So that part is nothing that we can do anything about. All we're doing here from this ordinance is to provide additional education, training to staff, and getting the information out of what are the best management practices in a community, focusing more on commercial than residential.
We'll have the ability to enforce for particularly those who violate. And how much of time that's going to take is hard to say.
And I guess, if I may just interject just for a little bit, and that's what best management practices. That's kind of these, my feeling is if we reject these agencies, the state, by not supporting those ordinances and not approving them, somewhere along the line it's going to come back and haunt us. And I think at the end of the day we're going to have to do it. We're just putting it off to another meeting and putting it on the agenda. And that's why one thing, if Andy recommends it, and Randy recommends it, to me, because I don't know a lot about that. I don't have a lot of knowledge on that, but for some, if other cities are doing it and we're going to have to do it, at least it's going to be on the books. I mean, half the stuff in the country doesn't get enforced, but as long as the state feels that we're supporting it in some way, maybe they'll leave you alone. But I understand the concern of everyone else here, the cost of increasing the projects and all that. But this is just a bureaucracy. This is just filling more papers and more books and more things. So, and I think Andy, you support this ordinance, right? I mean, you wouldn't do anything that's going to harm our city or it's going to be a burden to our city, down the road, right? I mean, you would say, Julio don't support it, right? And Randy would say not support it, right? I mean, you would say that, right? Because of,
I would say, from my perspective, the reason to support it is it's relatively low cost compared to doing capital projects to get the same amount of credit. Now, Commissioner, I don't disagree with you that enforcement of it directly would be very challenging. And so I'm not saying that I disagree with you from that perspective, but I would say that from a cost-benefit ratio, it's probably one of the least cost things that he could do to get the same amount of credit.
And the last thing I'll say, I agree with Commissioner Maria. We have a lot of ordinances on the book that we don't enforce now. We don't have the personnel to. This is one that I think is going to have consequences down the road. I think if I'm hearing it right, So that's why I went in and made a motion to approve it.
And one last comment I'd like to make is we don't want to be painted as not for water quality. That's definitely not some position the city wants to be in. And I think that's where we run the risk if we fail to take some of these actions that are less onerous than some of the alternatives. We hopefully reflect what we actually believe is we are in favor of water quality. I don't want to see higher nitrogen and phosphorus in our waterways. That will have detrimental effects on the quality of life.
I agree with all of that. My objection is not that. I do want cleaner water and better water. My objection is enforcement of ordinances on the books. It's just a complicated, it drains us. We don't do well with what we've got already. But with all of that said, if I can second the motion and.
Okay, I think you have to make it. He's already made a motion. The first motion failed because of a lack of second.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Rodriguez, you need a motion? Okay, all right. He has a motion. And there's a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's-
Well, I think the
Good
discussion's good.
discussion.
I think that's what we have to have.
Well, and if there's other components, then do they need to be comprehensively put in here rather than looking at another ordinance or coming back and changing things
Some of
again
them,
down the road?
some of them, I don't think will require an ordinance.
was mine.
This is one that, since it has a regulatory element that does, but your point's well taken. At this point, the other things are, as Andy pointed out, and as Sean has already worked on, is publication, things that we can do to educate the public. We will do some PSA things on the website to try to promote people so we don't have to enforce. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Mr. Martin, is resolution number 2020-74. I'll turn this over to you and to the attorney.
Okay, this is to bring to closure, hopefully, the continuing agreements that we requested. We went out for requests for qualifications, engineering firms, got a number of those. You've discussed that at previous meetings. We narrowed it down to 4 through a use of a committee internally. We narrowed it down to 4 recommended firms. You have those in your agenda, and they were announced at the last meeting: Johnson Engineering, Inc., Stan Tech Consulting Services, Inc., Tetra Tech, Inc., Erdman and Anthony of Florida, Inc. And we have successfully negotiated the standard professional services agreement, continuing agreement with all 4 of those firms, and bringing that to you tonight for your approval, hopefully, to affect contracts for these services with these firms. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I know this was an item that the commission was very interested in because we were operating with only 2 firms, and that was limiting us looking to the future on some of the projects, particularly in light of the state's new legislative requirement that you have 2 engineering firms involved in most projects, where you would have one doing the inspections, the CEI, I think it's called, and then another firm that actually doing the design, not being allowed to do that any longer, effective last year. So this will bring us, because all of these firms have that capability of doing inspection services. And I'll be glad to answer any questions, but from a staff perspective and manager perspective, these meet our requirements, and I think gives us a broad cross-section of capabilities for the various services that we'll be doing. I'll be glad to comment on that. I'll defer to the attorney. I think he prepared this agreement previously when the commission went through this a couple years ago, I guess. And you had a short list of 3 firms, and then one of those firms is no longer on the list. And so I don't know if he has comments on the document itself.
The document is the same document you currently have with your 2 engineering firms. It's been updated with the requirements that FDOT had suggested regarding hold harmless provisions, as well as the DEI inspection requirements. So I think they're ready to go, unless you have any specific items that you have concerns about.
With regard to, an engineer that does work, that's doing work on a project for a private entity or individual. Does that cause us any problems here? Or, I mean, all these guys, there's no conflict there?
They're required under this contract to identify any conflicts that they might have each time a work order is issued to them, and obtain permission from the city in advance. So if any of them are working for private entities that might somehow conflict with a particular job that's coming up, they have to disclose that to the city. Your city manager will look at it, and if he feels appropriate, that it's of a nature and extent necessary to bring it to the commission's attention or to the engineer's attention, and take appropriate action.
Because the agreements do talk about conflict of interest. I mean, you know, they can't work for the city and a private entity on the same project within the city. I mean, okay, all right, okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a very relevant question, and I'm glad you raised it because that's obviously something we looked at. We purposefully tried to find the ones on the list that are in reasonably close proximity or have a presence in the area and have had experience in the area. Well, that in and of itself is going to generate the fact that they're probably doing work for some people that might have be doing something in the city. And there are cases in point to that with some of the engineering firms. So we'll obviously, if we find ourselves in a need to evaluate a plan that's been done by one of them, then they obviously couldn't do that work for us if they had done the work for the applicant, and vice versa. But that's one reason we had at least 4. We think with at least 4, and we still have the 5th firm who didn't reapply by administrative error, and they are still interested in doing work. We still have the ability to use them until theirs expires, which I've forgotten how many more years that agreement. One more.
Was it 3 years originally?
Originally 3 years.
So maybe another year, but we have 4, and we think with 4 we'll be able to avoid the situation where we wouldn't have enough eligible firms to do work for projects. Okay. With the ones that the projects currently have going, the bridge, Ventura Avenue project resurfacing, so on and so on.
And they're on that original contract that could be extended another 3 years.
Possibly, that's a good point. We purposely wanted them all to be on the same schedule, but unfortunately, through no error of ours, that firm did not get theirs in during the time frame. So they are only eligible if we choose to use them. But we're going to need to use most of these on a fairly regular basis for the inspection services, if nothing else. Okay. And we have a number of utility potential projects. If the grant efforts we're doing are successful, we're going to have many irons in the fire at the same time. But good question. Glad you disclosed it.
Commissioner Rodriguez, did you?
I just think that this is something that we've tried to do now probably the last 5 or 6 or 8 years where we've had multiple engineers on here. But I don't think we've actually instituted it, because I think we've always used that I'm aware of, maybe wrong, but the number 1 engineer, the one that we designated as the mayor has mentioned before as the charter. Mm-hmm. He's a city engineer. Now, Randy, it'll be instrumental for you to, as you go on, to make sure that we do, if we have him on there, that we use him. I mean, to the best of our ability to make sure that projects, get done properly or on timely. And I don't know if Johnson Engineering, how much they're going to be doing, but I don't think this model has ever, we've never done this model where we've used multiple engineers at one time. I think if we do it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, I think this is something new, and I like it. I don't have a problem with it. I hope it works.
As a practical matter, the way the contract requirements are with the state now, we're going to have to use more than one on every project. You're going to have to use at least 2
with DOT funding.
Yeah.
So this is new.
And that's new. Also, the areas of expertise, even though all of these have broad capabilities, there are areas of expertise that some have experience in the county. I won't go through all the different examples. I can if you have specific questions, but it gives us options, and so that we can keep the ball moving on a number of projects at the same time. We will still need regular engineering guidance and services on small items as well. So if you've got engineer A working on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, engineer B doing water and sewer line extensions, and engineer C doing streets and highways, then that, and then you got to have inspections on each of those. We may use all 5 of them. But one thing I didn't want to do, I didn't recommend 8 or 10 or 11 just to have them on the list. I felt like that would be unfair to the engineer. I even heard from a couple of engineers, that they had been on a community's list and never got a call. Obviously, I think that's bad, because if the city goes out for an RFQ, you're not going to get many, and unfortunately, the city was very limited in how many you got a couple of years ago, from what I gather. This time we got a lot. I mean, I think it was 11. And so, and they were all qualified firms. Just some farther away than others, some less experienced in the area, some limited areas of expertise. But all those factors considered, we felt like 4 plus the one we already have under contract would be sufficient to do what we see on the horizon. But your point's well taken. We don't expect it to be you're on the list and never get a call, because I think that's bad for both sides.
Well, you got to keep them engaged too. I mean, you know, if you don't call them the day you call them, they're not going to be very interested in working for you. So that's building a relationship with them I think is important. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any public comments in regards to resolution number 2020-74? Okay. Phil, go ahead. Yes.
One of the things I think we really need to shore up, Randy, is documentation. When we have these outside firms like this, the record keeping, because like we just ran into with the inability of the previous firm to provide us with those maps, and so they don't have them. So what we used to have in being able to go to them, because they kept all our records, we don't have that anymore. So we really got to do a good job of keeping those in-house and making those firms provide us with records and documentation and keeping them in some organized fashion here at the city, so we don't lose that.
That's a must. And with today's technology, there's really no excuse for that anyway. Years past, it may have been some reasoning for consolidating it into one spot, but today's technology, there's really no excuse for that. That's a must.
Yeah.
And engineers come up, he's probably got something to share on that regard.
If I might, Commissioners, Andy Philpin for the record. The contract is very specific about providing all of the necessary documents for the city's records. And I will tell you as one of your consultants that I really don't want to be the city's public records repository. I'd rather help the city to develop a good repository so that the city is that entity. And because based on state law, there's a lot of things that anybody has to do to meet those requirements. And so I would much rather have the city be that and help you get there. Manager and I've already had a few conversations on that about projects that we're finishing up now and getting a package of material to the city so that it is available.
Okay.
Very, very good. And thank you, Andy. And also, it's important to us for other reasons, because we are building a database for our GIS mapping. So we have to have all of this. Our utilities will be available to the public through the city and county websites, with the proper links tied to property records. And, you know, that's what communities do now. That's what cities and counties across the country are doing. And we're behind the curve.
Right. And so if we could just put on old business, Randy, a repository of engineering information documents, so that, you know, we have a better understanding. I know that we can get packages from, you know, the engineering firms, but where will they be housed, and how are we going to keep up with all that data and have a mapping of it?
Sure, we'll give you an update on that, because we've been working with the county on that to update their website, and JD and I've had conversations about that.
I guess I'm still old-fashioned. I love to see the paper. I know we have, you know, electronic things, but I think that we're going to get a package delivery. I think we need to be able to make sure, especially with maps and things, you know, not everybody can get a huge document on their computer, but I would just like to see how it's going to be organized, because we have a storage room full of old files that
that's really not the way to do it. It's in a file. It's
correct.
To be electronically cataloged and easily by reference able to find it because of the public records law requirements.
Absolutely.
We have to do that anyway.
Okay.
So
all right.
Hey, this is Danny, Utility Director. Can I speak?
Sure.
Hey, I just met with a group last week. Randy, I think I told you about a cloud-based system. It actually will do the electric, water, sewer, roads. One of the things they mentioned about roads is, they can design where you can go on and you have your map. Say you got your 5-year, your 10-year, your 20-year replacement of roads or resurfacing. They'll also do hydrants. They'll design where, if, you know, what I was thinking of was the fire department, where they could look at hydrants and they have an app you can install on a phone or whatever it may be the fire department has. It'll tell where what pressure is on what hydrant. So it's a pretty simple system. I looked at it last week, and I think it would be an awesome system for us, actually.
Okay. All right. We'll let you and the city manager review that and bring it back for further discussion. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Okay. We didn't have any public comments here. I did ask for public comments. Not yet. Okay. Unmute the line, please. All right. And please hit *1 if you would like to comment on or resolution number 2020-74 in regards to professional services between the city of Clewiston, Johnson Engineering, Stantec Consulting, Tetra Tech, and Erdman Anthony of Florida. Are there any public comments? Please hit *1. Not hearing any, we'll go ahead and mute the line. Okay, the recommendation is to approve resolution number 2020-74, resolution of the city of Clewiston, Florida, authorizing the mayor to sign the continuing agreements for professional services between the city of Clewiston and each of the following: Johnson Engineering Incorporated, Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated, Tetra Tech Incorporated, and Erdman Anthony of Florida Incorporated. I have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Let's see where I'm at on the agenda. All right. Old business. Is there anything we need to discuss under old business?
With regard to the US 27 and the PCB board and CRA board meeting.
I don't know if Travis is on the line, but I asked him to schedule a meeting, and so I don't know if he's gotten that done. Okay. I haven't seen a notice on it. I'm working with him.
Is Director Travis on the line?
I'll get you an update.
Okay. Okay.
Heard that.
Mr. Hughes, you said you have.
Okay. All right. Anything else under old business?
The only other thing is that you will have, I know in November we're going to discuss the
several items.
Yeah. So if you'll have those appraised,
I'm hoping to have them.
If you need help with appraisers, I can give you.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you for some suggestions. I knew you probably work with them.
Okay. Any comments from our city attorney?
No comment. Thank
okay.
you, Mayor.
You're quite welcome. City manager?
Yes, I have distributed a report tonight, a copy of the attorney. It's regarding something that I know near and dear to most of you, all of you, and that's the Commerce Park marketing efforts. I won't read the entire memo. It's not that long, but I think just for purposes of those in the audience who don't have it, I've shared with the board some updates periodically over the past several months. Despite the obstacles that COVID-19 has presented, we've had significant interest in Commerce Park. And we, just for reference, I attached you a map of the park layout, and that we've had 3 parcels previously sold, and then I've been working on trying to market the other parcels. With regard to specific things, and I would like to keep, see if the commission would be interested in having, because a couple of these are time sensitive, if we're able to get your agreement tonight to authorize us to proceed with some of these actions, it may be necessary and desirable for the city's benefit to meet the requirements of some of these potential projects to have a call meeting in the not too distant future once the documents are ready and all the information's ready and we've finalized any negotiations that are necessary as a result of bringing it to closure. 3 particular ones is Lot 4 was sold in an action that began in December of 18. NQAS Corporation. The realtor has advised me that the buyer has since purchased their current location and is no longer planning to relocate. And the agreement the city had required them to give us, I guess I would call it first right of refusal before they could sell it to anyone else. I do not recommend that the city buy it back or take it back. I think it'd be in our best interest, particularly with the interest we're having for these smaller lots in the park, that we take whatever action the attorney recommends to meet our obligation and give them notice that they can proceed to market it if they choose to sell it to someone else. So that will be one action. And if you would agree to that tonight as a part of this, then the city attorney and I will collaborate and try to put together what's needed to make that happen. And since I have multiple interests on some of the smaller lots, I think that hopefully takes care of itself. The second item is particularly with lot number 9, I have an interest of one company, Advanced Medical Sanitation, Inc., that I recommend that we pursue a contract to sell them the property, lot number 9, for the price that you established on the last 2 sales, $1.20 a square foot. This would be an all-cash buyer with a 10% deposit coming in, and their intention is to construct approximately $500,000 structure and hire at least 10 jobs are anticipated to establish, to bring an established business operation. This is classified appropriately in terms of zoning as light industrial, and it's a biomedical waste processing, sanitizing, and disposal company that would also have an element of protective, personal protective equipment, PPE, sales aspect, and they would have minimal impact on the utilities, just domestic water. Thirdly, I would recommend that the council authorize us to do likewise on lot 7 with the firm Piping and Thermal Engineering Design, LLC, with the same terms, essentially. Their expectation is an investment of approximately $300,000 with the creation of 2 to 3 jobs associated with the facility and up to 10 in the field. And this would allows them to establish another location for an existing operation for lighting and manufacturing classified business activities, including industrial construction, fabrication, design, warehousing, and related activities, also with minimal public utility. I'd also like to report that I'm currently evaluating or in discussions concerning multiple offers for lots 1, 2, and 3, which I hope to advance to the point of making recommendations in the very near future. I've also been in discussions for lot 10 and participate at least one offer in the near term on this 10-acre parcel. And that will almost fill up the park. The only one I do not have an offer on right now is lot 5 or any expressed interest. I had one previously, but I haven't heard from them since COVID came around. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but I would, if you're so inclined to keep the option open for a call meeting if needed, but I'd like to get the direction to proceed with these 3 recommendations, number 1, 2, 3, on lots 4, 9, and 7.
Randy, this is a lot to digest, and we just got this.
Sure.
I haven't even been able to read this in detail. I am not inclined to make a decision tonight on any of this.
I'm not asking.
Okay, all right, okay.
Just keeping an option open of it, and we can
Right.
have a workshop on items prior to
Okay.
call meeting, but I'd
Okay.
like us to at least work on number 4 since we know that one is,
I have questions. I guess all of these meet the CPID requirements that we have for the park, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe lot 9 is, first right of refusal to the adjacent property owner on the contract that we signed with them when we sold the land.
I'm not aware of that one. That was before my time. I don't
Okay,
know.
so I think we need,
Palermo?
with water, Clewiston Water, Augusto, I can't even think of how,
We can check that.
yeah, this is, I think, even before you were here, Gary, so.
Yeah,
I think that we need to look at that. So I say that we have to go back and look at it. I know that the price is quoted is the same one that we did in 2018. Is that the fair market value of the property now? And so I think that those are some of the things that we need to look at. So that's why I think there's lots of discussion, and I'd like to sell a lot. I'm not trying to stop us selling the lots, but I'd like to get some questions answered on some of this information.
Those are good questions. I had not heard that previously about Lot 9. I certainly want to run that rabbit and go ahead.
Has, Lot 4 asked us to waive that right
Yes,
of first?
their agent has contacted me.
Because it's inhibiting their ability to sell it?
They can't sell it unless we waive the.
Yeah, they can offer it for sale and find a buyer, but and we can then decide whether we want to waive it at that point.
I could defer to the attorney. I think the way it's worded now is they are required to offer it to the city first. I'll let him.
Well, the deed restriction, says that the seller gives a 30 days notice in advance of closing and the right to repurchase the property under the same terms as the city sold it to them. So, at that point in time, then the city would exercise its right or not, the way it's worded. So they want to market it without that provision is basically what we have here. That was a provision that you spent a lot of time on when these contracts were negotiated, so you may want to give that some additional thought. Just one other point, and I don't mean to interrupt Randy's presentation, but the medical waste disposal, we're going to have to take a careful look at whether or not that's allowed in your CITD ordinance or whether an ordinance amendment is necessary. In other areas, people have come in with a very small facility that is seemingly okay for everybody's advantage, and then the next thing you know, they go to expand it to a huge medical waste incinerator site, and you have some difficulty getting your arms around that process. In other words, once you let it in, you have difficulty not allowing them to expand.
Right. Well, I think my concern with that, and I don't know, is that I know that we knew that we would have food preparation, or in this case, water there. And so I don't remember allowing us that we were going to have any kind of biohazardous waste allowed in the same property.
It doesn't stay there. What they do is, I understand, I'm still learning,
Okay.
is they collect it from places like hospitals, clinics, doctors, or whatever. This particular one doesn't incinerate. There's another one that I've talked to that has an interest in that type of thing. This particular one, what they do is sanitize and do their process, this biomedical process internally within the facility with their equipment, and then they containerize it and take it to the landfill or proper location for disposal. And this would be your needles and all the other stuff that are collected from those medical facilities that are classified as. None that I'm aware of. It's material and equipment that's utilized, I guess, PPE and things like that nature, that obviously is in pretty high demand right now to dispose of those kind of products. And this is an existing company that is doing it currently.
I, for one, am very excited about possibilities. So I say yes, sign us up for a meeting whenever you're ready. Let's be prepared.
And we'll get those questions answered as Mayor raised. Certainly I would got to do that on number 9. I had not heard that previously, that there was some previous.
If I remember correctly, there was something about that adjacent lot. They'd have the first right of refusal, I think.
And I don't know how long that was.
Yeah, I don't know. So.
Because that's been, what, 10 years or 3 years or something since that.
Yeah, I think we need to look at, there's a lot to digest a lot of information, and I think all this is, you know, Jim
Particularly
mentioned.
tonight, I've been giving y'all little mini snippets, but I wanted to give you some information because some of you, this will be at or near the last meeting, and I particularly wanted you to have an update on that as we go into the new board and to begin the process, because some of them are eager to move forward. Of course, that's their language. So.
And these are all existing businesses, they're just located
Correct.
someplace else?
Correct.
Okay.
These two, yes, lots 7 and 9 interest are.
I'll say this, this is coming to the end of my meetings, and that's one thing that I think I'm gonna regret leaving, is that we didn't develop that part. I know there were some circumstances, and so if there's any opportunity now that we can fill that part and get 600, jobs in there, originally, there's gonna be 400 to 600 jobs with,
I'll sell for 100.
with the mattress was gonna be 100 just by them, so.
Yeah,
So I would certainly support y'all having meetings to make sure so we can get some rooftops in that park and get some jobs, businesses, and obviously revenue from it. We're gonna have revenue coming from it. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'll leave that I didn't see. I wanted to see that park full by the time I left, and we got one building that hasn't really done much, unfortunately.
Well, and that's one reason I felt like you needed an update.
Yeah.
Or,
So I
appreciate that.
I hope that you can have meetings and move forward with these things. Of course, there's some things that have to be cleared out, but questions.
Because what I was concerned, if I wait completely until November, then we start it, it's first year before we can finish anything, and some of them are really getting equal.
Well,
and as Gary said, we got to do our due diligence, which will take a while.
Yeah.
But thank you. That's all I have for
that's all.
tonight. Other than I did want to publicly mention, since we put it out through social media, that we're doing a socially distanced drive-through mobile trick-or-treat event in sponsorship with U.S. Sugar Corporation at the John Boy Auditorium on Halloween from 5 to 7. And we encourage citizens, they'll stay in the car. There'll be people dressed up handing out candy as they drive through. And we hope to decorate and make it a really nice event as an alternative to traditional trick-or-treating, particularly since this year we're not having a fall festival or a trunk-or-treat event for several years.
What time was that again, Mr. Michael?
It's on the 31st, Saturday, 5 to 7.
And have we sent this out to the schools? I mean, I know it's on social media, I'm just thinking of,
We forwarded it to representatives of the school board to hopefully get their help in getting the word out. And we're doing it through the chamber and on our social media before, trying to do something to give children an alternative and adults.
Right.
Because there's a lot of both.
Right, and also part of CDC guidelines.
Correct.
Okay.
Point of, are you announcing no door-to-door?
Not as a regulatory thing. I'm not recommending that because it's almost impossible to enforce and others, but we're discouraging it because that is the guidance, is people avoiding that other than with their own family and relatives. But this is giving them an alternative on Halloween, late afternoon. So good question, but not at this point, no regulatory enforcement minded prohibiting it, but we certainly discourage it.
The CDC guidance says, just to stick to family and friends, but the enforcement, as you said, would be very difficult.
Hey, it's the only holiday where you're required to wear a mask.
Good one. I hadn't thought of it. Anybody wants to volunteer, we certainly will take them. We've got some folks already volunteered to participate. I'm planning to, and hopefully some others. I don't need much of a mask. I'll be frightening enough for them, I guess.
Okay. All right. And Gary, I did ask you, so you don't have anything that you ended up, and Randy, you don't have anything else? Okay, Commissioner McGahee?
I just have one question with regard to something I want you to look into and maybe get with Sean about. Whose requirement is it to maintain off-road parking paved areas?
Off
You
right
know
of
what I'm
way.
talking about? Because,
Off right of way parking.
yeah, so where we've let people pave these right of ways, is that the owner's responsibility or is that the city's responsibility?
Not the cities, if it leaves the right of way.
Well, it is the right of way. it's just now-
you're talking about when they put it in.
Yeah, like, so parking,
Yeah.
off-road parking, I don't know, and that, you know, now we've allowed that area to be paved, so, because there's so many, even, you know, that it's just a mess, and I don't know, when we allow people to do that, are we negotiating something with them, or are we just doing it willy-nilly? I mean, a lot of it's paved already, and I don't know who has been in the past, or there's something in particular. There's a road over by, my office that just is riddled with big potholes. And I don't know if it's our
not an alley?
responsibility.
Not an alley and or.
No.
Okay.
It's just, it's
Apron on the main road?
yeah, it's,
And did it have like,
So there's-
spaces?
no, so there's the road, and then there's the, what do you,
The right of way or the,
you know, like the, between the sidewalk and the road, I think there's an ordinance that
That's
says,
the apron that
yeah,
Gary's
that
referring to.
the owner is required to maintain that. And, you know, maybe that's what I need to look at, is maintain mean mow or and pave, if it's paved, you know.
Good points. I'll research it.
okay, is there anything else?
No.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson?
Yeah, speaking of potholes, could we take a look at, with all the rain recently, that end of Ventura off of Francisco has really deteriorated.
Yeah, I observed it
very
today and
quickly.
Friday, and this rain's not helping, but
It's
we were
long.
hoping to limp along until we got a paving project, but I think we're gonna have to.
We don't, I don't think we have a choice. I saw it too.
And it mentioned it. So, patching, I think, Ventura is no question gonna be necessary given how long. By the way, we did get good update. Andy got one today on Ventura. So we're moving. DOT's giving us their feedback on 100% of the plans are done with their recent input. And so we got some good information. There's another document we've got to approve and execute, but I think we're getting close with DOT to cutting us loose to bidding it. But in the meantime, we're gonna have to address some of the potholes, particularly where the road narrows down.
Yeah.
A couple other spots.
Yeah. Was there anything else?
Code Red, still utilize the Code Red for emergency notifications through utilities?
Correct. We've been discussing, and I've had some discussions with PD as well as others, of transitioning potentially to Everbridge, I believe it's called, the county system. There's some advantages according to some of the public safety folks, but we haven't done anything formal. We still have all our data on the Code Red.
That's what I was gonna ask about. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One thing that I've noticed, here in the last few meetings, that we haven't had any police protection here in the change. I was wondering why we haven't had that. That's pretty much, I mean, especially, now we're not getting a lot of people, obviously, with the COVID, but eventually, when things get back to normal, I don't know the reason we stopped having police protection.
Well, I don't think we've had but 2 meetings, maybe.
We haven't had it in the last couple of meetings, but I don't see why not. You know that anything could erupt at any time. A mad person, a mad citizen, somebody that's argumentative or whatever. I mean, there's always. I know Matt was here, but I think he was just here as an audience. I don't think he was here to protect us. So
yeah,
I think we need. I mean, you go to every meeting in the country, there's a police, I'm sure, inside the chamber.
Yeah, and, most likely this will be our last meeting with this format, of the way we're doing it again tonight.
So you're gonna go to what? You're gonna go to normal?
It will be some, but, we have been trying to minimize the number of people here, because if we fill them up with staff, then that limits further the opportunity for others, because we are requiring social distancing and things of that nature, but, I'll talk to the chief. I don't think it's anything intentional.
No, I don't think it's intentional.
Because I've actually discouraged
For
them to
safety
come unless
reasons,
they
I
have
think
something
that
on
one.
the agenda, just to not have too many people here, but,
Yeah.
I'll talk to the chief. I don't think it's an issue.
I mean, we've always had it.
We haven't made a
That's
conscious effort not to do it.
Just for safety reasons.
And this is the last meeting that we can do telephonically. I mean, we have
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
we
I
have
don't
to start
anticipate
meeting
it.
here now and open it,
Yeah, what, you
not
know,
limit the number of
I
people.
think the goal of all of us is to have audience, participation. We want people to participate and tell us what's on their mind. So what I always wanted to see is this chamber full of people not complaining, but trying to be positive. Trying to do some positive things for the community. I know we've had it, but it's because there's always been a problem in their backyard, and that's what they're there to complain about. But I encourage participation from our citizens.
And along that line, we will be obviously pursuing technology enhancements in here to make it better for the public participation without being here, just because that's what people
That's what it's going
doing
to.
and demanding.
With
And
the COVID and all that, I understand.
And so we want to encourage participation. It just may not be in physical presence.
That was just food for thought.
Sure.
If you feel safe without police protection here, don't have it. But that's something that we've had forever. So I wonder why we stopped it. And number two is, I know we're struggling, Randy, with our sanitation. I see. Somehow we've got some issues because I know we've got guys now in the back, we're doing it manually.
We got one of our trucks, in fact, it's been broken down, and it's had another one.
It's been a while now.
We have found a potential solution that we didn't have time to put together for this meeting, but we found a used truck option that is pretty viable in terms of much reduced cost for us to get a much newer piece of equipment, and so I'll be bringing that recommendation to the board pretty soon, and that will help. But we have had equipment problems.
Yeah.
Some of the older trucks.
Well, I drive around, I see it, and I think everybody else does, the mayor, the commissioner, everybody's seeing that we're struggling to pick up trash, and that's something that we've done very well in the past. We have our laurels on our sanitation department, how good of a job they're doing.
Right.
And that's why it's a priority, and we've had crew out there on it.
No, they're still doing a good job, but they're struggling to do it. I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. I'm just saying they're struggling.
Yeah, it's taking longer for them to get it all done.
Exactly. 5 o'clock, I still, not that I care, but and the thing is that I'm glad that you do have a plan in place, maybe a use. I know leasing might not be an option. That's expensive, leasing something. I don't know.
We did that last year. We were trying to avoid that because this is a very unusual opportunity that we can get one of those multi-$100,000 trucks for less than $100,000. We're really evaluating it very carefully, and we're going through the advertisement process. So we choose to authorize us to do that. And with the changes we're making to the rates, which will be on the next agenda,
that's what I was going to say.
That will allow us the flexibility to pursue that.
That's all I have. Okay.
Anything else?
Julio, bringing up the sanitation, that was one of the things under notification to the public. I had a number of calls from people whose pickup time had changed when the trucks went down. And
Just
as a
slower.
result, they had, so we struggle to get notifications out, and we need to let people know if you were normally in the afternoon, and now they're coming by early.
Yeah. And we can certainly put that on social media as well, on the
Everybody
city's Facebook.
has social media, though, that's
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how many have really been impacted that way. I know we've had them later in the day. Like my personal experience, they were coming early, and then they're coming like an hour or so later. But we have had a few instances of that. But I think we're on the tail end of that. So, but your point's well taken of making sure the community knows when those adjustments are necessary.
Okay. That's it? Okay. All right. And, I think I gave Randy, some information earlier, just something I wanted him to check, so I took care of my issue. There's not anything else. Is there anything else from the public here tonight? If not, okay, have a motion.
We will, just
Oh,
for
sorry.
information, we will have the organizational meeting on the next agenda, as I understand the
November.
process, the regular meeting agenda in November, which will be after the election. There'll be an organizational meeting, and we'll do the additional, along with recognition of, any members, longer.
So we'll come, I mean, I'll be here for the November.
That's why I wanted to mention it.
We'll be here.
And do I sit in the audience, or do I sit here?
We'll give you some guidance on
Give me
that.
some guidance.
I know what procedure I'm accustomed to, but here, I want to find out what the practice has been and what's the
You
acceptable.
just tell me what I gotta do.
Sure.
We'll
Communicate.
I do have my farewell speech that I want to do.
Sure. Well,
Y'all better bring y'all.
we have citizen time. I'll leave that to.
I do have a little, short, it's gonna be short, I promise you it's gonna be short.
But we will have the other organizational meeting stuff, and
Do you do the, I've been here, the organizational meeting happens in December, right? For the, we switch, but the actual other one for the mayor and all that.
I think it's in December, if I'm not mistaken, yeah.
that's when you do it,
Yeah.
after you
December,
beat the first.
Right.
But we'll start the process, obviously, after the election, but we'll work together with,
You'll let me know
we'll let all the affected parties know so that, we do it uniformly and give proper recognition to those who are vacating seats.
Okay.
And I wish good luck to all the ones that are running, Good luck
Thank
to
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so our meeting's adjourned.
Huh?
Our meeting's adjourned.
Okay.
Conference
recording has stopped.